Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping into late feudal Slovakia to untangle a really fascinating economic puzzle. We're in the Kysuce region, a poor, mountainous area where, against all odds, the local lords were getting incredibly rich. And the secret to their fortune? Well, it wasn't out in the fields, but inside one single humble building.
Okay, so let's start with the central mystery. The land in Kysuce was rocky, tough, not great for farming. By all accounts, this was a poor region. So how in the world were its feudal lords raking in massive cash fortunes? It just doesn't seem to add up. Where was all that money coming from?
You see, the key wasn't in agriculture or timber. Nope. The answer was hidden inside the local tavern, or the kerchma, as it was called. This one place was the secret economic engine that powered the whole region.
Now, we're not just talking about selling a few beers here and there. The lords had set up this incredibly sophisticated and, frankly, brutally effective business model. It was a system designed from the ground up to grab every last coin that came into the area.
So, to really get this, you have to understand the legal setup. The lords held something called regalian rights, and what that meant was they had a total, legally enforced monopoly on producing and selling booze, butchering meat, and milling grain. Nobody else could get in on the action. They literally owned the entire market.
And this right here shows the sheer genius of their system. Just look at this cash cycle. First, the lords actually wanted their serfs to go find seasonal work in the richer farmlands down south. Why? To earn cash. Then, when the workers came back home with pockets full of money, the only place to spend it, on drinks, on socializing, was in the taverns owned by, you guessed it, the lord. The cash went right from the worker's hand straight back into the lord's bank. It was a perfect closed loop.
And the amount of money we're talking about is just staggering. On one estate alone, the Strechno estate, they could pull in up to 120,000 zloty in a single year. And that's just from selling alcohol. For that time period, that is an absolutely astronomical amount of money.
To put that number into perspective, check this out. 80,000 zloty. That was the price to buy an entirely different estate back in 1814.
So let that sink in for a second. The money they made from selling drinks in their taverns in just 1 year was more than enough to buy a whole new territory, complete with all its land, villages, and people. It was a mind-bogglingly profitable business.
And these lords were smart business operators. They kept optimizing. At first, they had local serfs running the taverns, which was pretty inefficient. So they upgraded their model. They started leasing the taverns out to professional, educated merchants, often Jewish tenants who were skilled in business. That single move turned a profitable side hustle into a ruthlessly efficient cash machine.
Now, to really grasp the power of this system, you have to understand that the tavern wasn't just a bar, not even close. It was the absolute, undeniable center of the community. It was woven into the very fabric of daily life. I mean, look at all the hats it wore. It was the local newsroom and the social network. It's where you went to strike a business deal or arrange a marriage. Village finances were settled there. The army found new recruits there. It even served as a courtroom. The tavern was, quite literally, everything. And this just shows you how professional the whole operation was. The actual rental contracts for these taverns had clauses like this one, which says, because cleanliness attracts guests. The lords knew a basic rule of business. A clean, welcoming spot means more customers, and that means more money. But of course, when one single establishment has that much control over a community's social and economic life, and that establishment is built around selling alcohol, well, you can probably guess it's also going to be the source of some pretty serious problems. This chart gives us a perfect snapshot of what people were actually drinking. And look at that huge slice of the pie. The overwhelming favorite was sham, a really cheap, harsh spirit made from grain or potatoes. It was strong, it was inexpensive, and it was the perfect fuel for this economic engine. And wow, did they drink a lot of it. The data shows the average person, and remember that includes men, women, everybody, was putting away over 4 liters of hard spirits every single year. For the 19th century, that is an absolutely incredible amount. And all that drinking led to a mountain of debt. Once the cash from the seasonal work was gone, people didn't just stop. They got desperate. They started pawning their most valuable possessions, their clothes, their work tools, anything of value, to the tavern keeper, all for just one more drink. So, as you can imagine, this incredibly efficient system for extracting cash through alcohol sales had a really dark and, you could say, inevitable outcome. It was less of an unintended consequence and more like the logical conclusion.
The historical record is pretty clear on this. The explosion of alcoholism in the region wasn't some random social accident. It was the direct result of an economic strategy that prioritized profit above everything else. The system wasn't broken, it was working exactly as it was designed to.
Now, people did try to fight back. You had these temperance societies popping up, inspired by national leaders like Ludovic Stur. Thousands of people took pledges to stay sober. But in the end, the movement really struggled. The economic and social pull of the tavern was just too powerful to overcome.
So, after all that, what's the big takeaway here? Why does this very specific story about taverns in a remote corner of Slovakia hundreds of years ago actually matter?
Well, what we're looking at is a system that was, you have to admit, kind of brilliant in its design. It was perfectly adapted to its unique environment. A mountainous region, a population with little cash, and a reliance on seasonal work. But it was also deeply cynical, building its wealth on the back of a massive social problem.
And that brings us to this really crucial quote. Kysuce is only a part of Slovakia. This isn't the story of the whole country. It's a hyper-local history, and it's a powerful reminder that geography and economics can create societies that are totally distinct from their neighbors, even just a few valleys away.
And all of this leaves us with a final thought, one that's very relevant for today. This was a system that created incredible profits for a select few, while leaving behind huge, hidden social costs for the many. So it makes you wonder, what economic models do we have right now that might be doing the exact same thing?